Two different approaches, similar price points. Which one is suitable for whom?
Welcome to TAP channel.
Hi, I'm Yang and I bring impressions of IEMs, headphones, music players, and insights into the world of wired portable audio. So very similar in price points, but two almost extreme opposites in terms of approaches. Now, how do we intend to compare them? We compare them across different categories, specifically build and design, fit and comfort, and of course sound signature, which is one of the most important, and HRTF's significance, the different music genres, and pairings, and finally where we can audition them to get to your final decision making. So let's go. So we're right now talking about shell design and build quality, and these are again two different approaches. This is the CRINEAR Reference and this is the YU9 QUE. Now, the approach of CRINEAR Reference is having this really, I would say, a minimalist kind of design where its shell is full aluminum, and that aluminum is not just limited to its faceplate. You can see that it goes all the way around its shell. So I think CRINEAR here opted for a really nice seamless design, not going over the top, and I kind of like it because it lets the aluminum shell show without anything overshadowing it with too much design, and it's a really nice approach that I can see why he did so. Now then we go on to YU9's approach on the QUE, and this QUE has a really nice textured faceplate, and this textured faceplate is a form of aluminum alloy, and I also really like this textured approach. It really contrasts with the CRINEAR Reference, but their approaches, although different, one goes for a full-on aluminum minimalist design, and then the other goes for a really beautiful textured finish. Now its shell for the YU9 QUE is a 3D printed resin material, although you can still, when you touch it, right, it's still very hardy, so it feels very sturdy as well. And these are the two differences in build design, but I actually think there's one for each. The only kind of design that I don't really enjoy are things that are overly gaudy, I would say. Too many colors, too many patterns all over. I think these two are very beautifully executed in their own way, and one is simple, one is textured, so it depends on which one you would like to. Now we are going to go on into cable comparisons now. So this is the CRINEAR Reference cable, and this is the YU9 QUE cable. In terms of thickness and stiffness, you can see that the CRINEAR Reference cable is thicker and it is of a stiffer stock than the YU9 QUE. Now we have a swappable termination, which is really useful, and there is this screw on here and screw off where you can just then pull it out and attach the 3.5 in. Now this is a really nifty addition to the CRINEAR Reference, where we have this screw on. So what it does is when you plug it in to any of these 4.4 jacks, which tend to be a little bit tighter, so when you pull it out, you don't have the problem of the jack being stuck inside. So I think this is a very good addition. However, its stiffness is what a lot of people have been complaining about, so it actually doesn't really affect me, although I can see why, because this is the part where the memory wire hangs over the ear. So with its stiffness, it's a little bit difficult to have it grasp your ear comfortably right out of the box. So that's something to take note of. Whereas the YU9 QUE cable is a lot more malleable, easier to shape. In terms of the differences, right, the QUE's cable is something that I do prefer more. It is more shapeable, and that it has a little bit of that, just a tad of sticky, plasticky feel when you hold on to it. However, it's really not too much that it's worth complaining about. Now, in terms of termination, it has a fixed 4.4 or 3.5 variant, which here we obviously took on the 4.4, and versus the reference is swappable, whereas the YU9 QUE is not swappable. However, these days a lot of you guys are already on 4.4. So this is one thing though that I think the reference has given consumers a little bit more flexibility on, although this is not too much of a deal breaker for me. And in terms of material, the YU9 QUE is a pure copper cable, and the CRINEAR Reference is an SPC, or silver plated copper. And these are the two cable differences. And in terms of shell sizes, both shell sizes may not really be the smallest, however they are quite decent, not really too big as well. We can show you both, although the YU9 QUE has a little bit of a bigger shell in comparison to the reference, and we can show you. So you can see slightly that the reference shell is slightly smaller. However, by shell sizes, you can't really tell how well it fits into one's ear, and I'll explain a little bit. So the reference, you can see the shell shape is slanted with a little bit of a nook coming out here. So in some ear shapes, right, this nook can be a little bit painful for them. It's not really about the thickness of the shell. And then of course it's got a nozzle, not too long honestly, and for such a shape with this kind of nozzle size, it usually can fit quite a number of ears because it slants in without having too deep of a nozzle. Now in comparison, right, the QUE, it doesn't have that nook. It just kind of slants and has a rounded edge here. So for my own ear shape, the YU9 QUE fits my ear shape better because it doesn't have that additional nook coming out compared to the reference, although the reference shell size is smaller. Now, how do you actually know whether it fits you well? The only way is to come and audition and be able to test out and check out the fit yourself, because fit is really everything in the IEM for me. If an IEM doesn't really fit you, no matter how we explain or no matter how much you know about its sound signature, it's simply not firing in your ear properly. And once it's not firing in your ear properly, then all the things that you've heard about sound signature, you won't be able to hear them anyway, okay? So always try them out, unless of course you have owned a lot of IEMs over the years and you already know exactly what the shape of your ears are and what type of shell particularly fits you or not. Otherwise, this is something that's really important, and I cannot over stress this. It is highly important for you to be able to come and test out and be able to see whether the shell sizes do fit you.
So, sound signature, this is what everyone has been waiting for. Now, their frequency range can easily be obtainable on Squiglink, and you can compare them in between the YU9 QUE and the CRINEAR Reference, and you can see that they are widely different. While we will be referencing, for no pun intended, the frequency ranges slightly, but we all know that's not the end-all be-all for sound, right? There's a lot more to how an IEM sounds like, apart from one variant, which is its frequency range. So we're talking impressions, and we'll delve deeper into what that means for each one of us. So let's talk QUE's sound signature. But before that, let's quickly go to driver configurations. And the QUE has 1 DD and 3 BAs, and the 3 BAs are targeted at its mid to treble. Now for the entire frequency curve, if you look at QUE's shape, it has an interesting shape. At the 1 to 3K Hertz, the curve is a little bit more bumped rather than scooped out, which is the case for a lot of IEMs lately. It is not an exact science, but typically the more scooped out shape tends to, I feel, offer a little bit more dried out vocals. It's not as full, but this is of course not a science. There are a lot of examples I could give where even though it doesn't have this bump, the vocals still sound pretty natural. However, for QUE, I think what's most interesting is how extended its treble is, and in terms of pushing out that extension, from the 5 to 8K Hertz range, the QUE does not have that bump. In fact, it's actually deep down into a trough. And what it does is that I can say that it's nearly impossible for anyone to feel that the QUE sounds sharp. QUE, with its multiple small, peaks and troughs of its entire frequency range, and the treble extending further out, right? What does it mean in terms of what you hear perceptively? Of course, for each of us, it's very different, but at least for me, what the QUE does is that the QUE is quite a wide sounding IEM. It's almost like when you're standing, I don't know how many of you play Assassin's Creed, but there is what we call the eagle eyes view, where you stand at the top of the tower. The QUE is able to provide that large macro view detailing, right? And what it does is it can do it fantastically well. So for people who enjoy having that stage, I think they will really, really enjoy QUE. In terms of drilling down into individual notes and attacking them, it's less pointed. But I think that's the fun of QUE. QUE is able to present a wide view of what you want to hear in your playback, so your music feels big and it feels fun because its treble is super extended out, so you can hear all the sparkles at the end without having the sibilance because of how uniquely it's shaped. And because of its bass boost, the QUE gives you that nice bass thumpiness, but it's not too pointed like usually what you get for the super high resolution details of maybe higher end IEMs. But I think QUE punches way above its weight in terms of what it can do, the emotions that we can get out of QUE. It's fun and colored on the treble side. Its mids are nice. I wouldn't say it's full, but it has that little bit of a bigger stage that it affords and allows its mids to come through, and its bass is accompanying and complements this entire range that QUE is capable of. Honestly, I think its speed is also quite decent, and this is an IEM where if you're looking for that fun sound, that fun tuning, where you're really just listening to it for enjoyment, I think the QUE punches way above its weight in terms of its price class. So how then does the sound signature compare to the reference, which takes on a, I would say, almost polar opposite kind of direction? And I think that's what makes this fun, this comparison, because they both take such opposite approaches. When Clinical says flat, what does he actually mean? What does he refer and compare this flat to? So this flat here actually, from what I understand, is comparison to the JM1 target curve. Now there are a few of these curves. There is also the Harman adjusted 2025 target curve. This target curve is what primarily a human ear, for most of us at least, perceive and hear as flat, which means that there is no particular bumps anywhere else to make the music more colored in a certain way. However, as Clinical himself has mentioned, there is a little bit of slight elevation, particularly from the 20 to 150 Hz range, which is the sub bass and bass parts. And this is to really compensate for how it should be perceptively flat, because for speakers, naturally, you do not need that bump. But for IEMs, because of the way it sits in our ear, you do have to have that little bit of bump to be able to get that perceptually flat playback that you hear in your ear. So the core principles of this set are actually met, and there are no huge peaks. There's no much of an extended treble, at least directly compared to QUE. And so that shimmer that you hear in a lot of IEMs, you don't hear it here. Now, is that bad? No, not necessarily. If that's something that you would like, and I actually quite like to listen to Reference, because it doesn't have that colored shimmer at the end. You kind of hear the playback for what it's intended to be. So the Reference can be thought of and used as a tool. And this tool is to be, as Clinical mentioned, to be still water. And I think it was very, very well executed. Now, these two different sound signatures, which one would you prefer? Now that's really up to you. And for me, with different moods each day, right, I would actually prefer different IEMs based specifically on what kind of music I'm listening to. So let's delve into the type of music genres that are suitable for you. So I think for music genres, we can speak a little bit more generally because we've had many years at both Zeppelin Co and here at TAP that we have probably two people working, both of them listening to the same genre but working out with completely different IEMs. Now why is that? Because different people focus on different parts of a music. Some people are more interested in staging, some people are more interested in accurate imaging, some others are interested in pitch. And so for reference, who would reference be more suitable for certain music genre listeners? I would say people who are much more interested in hearing pitch. Reference would be able to more accurately represent pitch based on the original recording that you are listening to. Now for the QUE, of course, is much more colored, it's much more fun. So for listeners who really like grander sound, bigger sound, they want more soundstage, they want macro view of their entire playback, then the QUE is more suitable for you. So I wouldn't call it genre specific, that each genre maybe you can have each IEM, but rather what do you look out for in listening to your music? And a lot of people do confuse them. So if you're confused, come by and we can be able to help you out a lot more in that regard, because sometimes people do misunderstand what is it that they want. Sometimes they think, oh, I want more bass. Actually, not necessarily. Maybe some of you just want more detail. You don't want more bass. In this video, I had mentioned what HRTF is, and I think it's important to talk about this very, very briefly. What is HRTF? It is your head-related transfer function. To put it very, very simply, how sound hits your head and into your ear is different and unique for each and every one of us. And so because everyone's HRTF is different, the way the IEMs are shaped, how the shell are, and how it fits into our ears actually really do change the way that we perceive sound signature for each IEM. This is the reason why a lot of IEM selection should be based on what we believe the more empirical approach, where you, apart from looking at frequency curve and looking at reviews, it's very important to come at audition and for us to be able to help you find the final third. Like in a football field, the strikers go to the final third before they can have higher chance of striking and getting a goal. And that's exactly what your IEM selection should be. We'll be able to come and help you get to the final third. So let's get down to pairings, and of course you know what I feel about sources and the importance of it. So for an entry-level pairing, I think the reference and both the YU9 QUE pairs very well with iBaso's DC04U. And DC04U might have a little bit more sparkle, and I think this pairing works beautifully, especially with the reference. And it doesn't really overly make it more sparkly for even the YU9 QUE. So in terms of having a good, clean, simple source to work with, the DC04U would be great. And of course, on the mid-tier dongle, or actually high-end dongle, but mid-tier pairing would be the DC Elite. Everybody knows about DC Elite's technically competence already, and its ROM stack architecture plus its 24-step attenuator would easily allow the reference and the YU9 to shine. Now in terms of DAP pairing, what DAP pairings I think works well, I think the Hy-V R6 Pro 2 2025 works well as well for both of them. Now for all our recommended pairings here, we have tested them extensively with both of these IEMs, so it will be good for both of them. And then of course, iBaso's DX180 will also work quite well with the reference and YU9 QUE. Again, pairing with your sources is not an exact science, so we have gone through a lot of iterations to be able to come up with these pairings, primarily because we have listened to hundreds and hundreds of decks over the years. We've listened to hundreds and hundreds of IEMs, and we have the advantage of being able to prototype with the manufacturers as well, and listening to before final products to finalized products, and working with them on a lot of these details give us a lot more insights into what pairs well and what doesn't pair well with certain things, and have that intuition on helping you guys find a suitable pairing. So where can you audition and purchase them would be the last question. So once again, for people in Vietnam and Singapore, you are in luck. because in Vietnam, you have the audio people here, right where I'm sitting, where you can audition before you finally decide to buy, and we can also assist you in being able to think about how best you can get the maximum potential out of your selected IEM or source. And in Singapore, Zeppelin Co is very well known already, a lot of you know them. So that will be a place where you can come by and be able to try out these two beautiful combinations and see which is the one that is suitable for you. Now, thank you so much if you reached the end of this video, and I would really like to thank all of you for coming by every week to share our insights, our impressions. We will have a lot more going on for you, and we will eventually have interviews with the brands. So stay tuned, and I will see you again next week. Bye.